What's up, guys? Welcome back to Keeping Up with the X-Men. We are about to talk about Phoenix Resurrection 4 because, as you know, Jean Grey is my favorite character, and she's coming back, and the rest of our stuff always gets put on hold when it's time to talk about something that deals with Jean Grey this directly. And this has been a tremendous event, and this book was fantastic, to say the very least about it. So, I guess we start off most of the time, we just mention something about the cover. It's alright. It's an alright cover. It's not bad. Doesn't necessarily stand out. Some of the X-Men seem afraid. Some of the X-Men are ready to run right into it. It's the Phoenix. It's neat. It's whatever. As you remember, the X-Men had found that weird eggshell dome thing out in the middle of the desert and whatnot, and they were going to go into it, and at that exact time, well, right before that, we saw Jean, and that Jean had just been visited by Jean Grey in the Phoenix costume with the fire all around her and whatnot. Well, each one of these books has seemed like her world is falling apart a little bit more, and that reality around her is breaking. And that is exactly what is happening. This is Jean Grey, but something is going on. There's something manipulating the way that she sees the world, kind of like a psychic illusion, and she's massively lost in it. You see, that is the house that she went to, and there it is. It's destroyed. It's not even a house there to speak of. But when she wakes up today, as far as she's concerned, she just says, "Oh, I overslept," and she gets up and she walks out of this house, and the house is not even there. And this book gets wild real fast, because also the Phoenix deals out life and death and rebirth, reanimation. It can create, it can destroy. Its power is nearly limitless, and she is tapping into that power. Here in this place, everybody we see, everybody that we've seen is dead. And they show us part of that. And for a second, Jean Grey sees through it, but then it fixes almost immediately as she walks down the street on her daily routine, talking to the paperboy and all kinds of things like that. All different people that used to live in the neighborhood where she grew up when she was real little is what we've been seeing here. And the neighborhood has been recreated. It's not actually there. And where she goes, the world is on fire. In fact, the world itself is actually always on fire. She is seeing what she wants to see, or maybe what something else wants her to see. As you can see right here, this person is dead. And for a second there, she realizes it. But then she starts talking to that person, and the person is very much alive. And as she walks down the street, and the paperboy and everything that's coming up behind her and whatnot is burning. But as she turns around, she doesn't see the burning. She sees what she is either expected to see or what she wants to see. And it is absolutely wild. The X-Men are currently standing outside of the egg-like structure, the dome, the whatever it is. They find a door, and they're about to, they're thinking they're going to go in. They know that they're dealing with the Phoenix and Jean now. They know that. There's no denying it. And they're like, well, who's going to walk in there? I mean, who's really crazy enough to walk in there first? And I did like this little scene where it shows Wolverine, Old Man Logan is the first one that's like, I'm going to go in there. And he just pops his claws and he goes right in there because he's Wolverine, and he's Wolverine, okay? I'm tired of this Old Man Logan and everything. We're not going to get into this right here, but guys, come on with this crap. Like, this is one of the big problems in Marvel, and we're not going to cloud up this review with it. I'm just going to say that there's Batman in DC. There's Wonder Woman in DC. And you get where I'm going with this. Here, in this, there's Wolverine, all new Wolverine, Old Man Logan. All of them have earned the title Wolverine. Oh, and there's Jimmy Hudson, which is basically Wolverine. Like, and then when I'm trying to review a book, I just keep accidentally, you know who he is. It's Old Man Logan. He's still Wolverine. Okay? He's Logan. It's whatever. When they get in there, one of the first people to greet them is Icarus. He's dead. I believe Wolfsbane is there. She's dead. Cyclops is there. He's dead. Warpath is there. He's dead. Like, it's just like, and then it becomes this massive brawl between living X-Men and dead X-Men. And they know that these X-Men are actually dead. So they're just like, do not hold back. These are aberrations. They're abominations. They're not real. Storm through them. I guess pun intended, because Storm is literally laying down the law here. But it's a pretty massive fight. And they could tell immediately that what's happening here is the Phoenix is bringing out everything it has to hold them back. So, while most of them keep all of this busy, a couple of people make their way away from what's happening. This is Kitty Pryde, Polaris, Old Man Logan, and Magic. They push through and move out. They're looking for something. They don't know quite what it is, but they know that once they find it, they'll know what it is. That's the whole idea here, is if they just go looking, it's out there, they'll find it. As they run through the city, they do happen to come across the restaurant, Annie's. And wow, crap on me for not realizing it sooner. The restaurant where Jean works is Annie's. The manager lady that Jean has been talking to is named Annie. And the little girl that died all those years ago that set Jean's powers in motion was Annie. Boom. Like, I don't know why it took till this moment, looking at the restaurant, to piece it together, but it did. I don't know why. It threw me for a massive loop. Like, the whole time I've been reading this, I've been trying to look in the backgrounds and things like that and see what I can see, and it was so in front of my face, so played off at an insignificant level, that it never even occurred to me that that is her dead friend. But in whatever reality she's witnessing here, her dead friend never died. And because she never died, Jean's powers did not manifest in that way. And because of that, sorry, I keep trying to fix my hair. It's driving me crazy. Because of whatever happened here, she is in this reality. And her dead friend never died, and her dead friend opened a restaurant, and she's now working at that restaurant, and she's dating Scott. It's a completely different life of what if this hadn't happened this way. It's incredible. And it's something that I can't believe I didn't realize it. I'm a huge Jean Grey fan, okay? But like I said, I'm not an expert. I'll never claim to be an expert, and I don't know why it didn't dawn on me until this moment that was so significant, but wow, is it significant. The lady that's been sitting in the restaurant, that usually sat at the edge of the table, the one that's been giving kind of like the orders and whatnot, the one they keep calling Annie, is the friend that ran in front of the car and died. Man, I'm telling you, when that one went down, when my mind figured that out, it blew me away, because it was not one of those things like I didn't look it up. It didn't tell me in here before I got to the realization. I realized it for some reason when I seen that restaurant. I was like, oh shit. The people here are dead. I was like, all this crap is some kind of an illusion. That's the Annie, the best friend Annie. I was like, oh man. Oh, man. And it blew me away. So anyways, while they're there, if you were looking at that page, Jean comes out of the restaurant. She can't see the X-Men that are standing right there. And she throws the trash away because she's just doing a mundane job. And she closes it and she walks back into the restaurant to do her job. And while she's in there talking to Annie, Beast walks up and he's like, for whatever reason, all the aberrations just stopped. They just disappeared and let us go. So we're all here now. And he's like, what is this place? And he's like, what's going on? And he said, well, we saw Jean. And he's like, oh, good. What was she doing? And old man Logan, this was an awesome exchange, okay? I had a really good time with this one. Old man Logan says, we seen her. And he's like, yeah, what was going on? He says, well, she was taking out the trash. It's this panel right over here. Says, what was going on? Well, Jean was taking out the trash. And he says, I'm not sure I understand your metaphor. And he says, she came outside with garbage and put it in a garbage can. And there was something about that exchange that was so humorous because it really shows the difference between Old Man Logan and Beast at such an extreme rate here, because Beast is looking for a metaphor or a colorful explanation of sorts, and Old Man Logan just explained exactly what he's seen. Oh, she came out here and she put the trash in the can. I'm not sure I understand your reference. She came outside with trash and she put it in the garbage can. And then she went back in. And Beast is like, oh, okay. He's like, well, that's interesting. So they get to talking about this, and Beast tells them that what he thinks is happening is that all of this is some sort of manifestation. It's some sort of incubation phase, that they are in a type of egg. And that what is happening is she's being prepped for the Phoenix to take control in a different way. All these times that the Phoenix has bonded with a host. And this is, from what I understand, this is part of what's going on. The Phoenix is a godlike entity. It stands so far above your mortal sense of morality. Your moral sense of morality does not apply. It doesn't see life and death the way we do. It's just a thing. And it's so far above the capacity of what we are that, how do I put this? They say that the boot has no quarrel with the ant. It just is. And this is what's interesting about the Phoenix in general, is that it's coming here. And why is it coming here? Well, if I had to guess, it controls life and death, but it can't experience life or death. It doesn't, for some reason, it's built with a desire to want this. The experience that it owns. It controls it, but it can't have it. And what I think has been happening, and I think this goes all the way back to the retcon where it showed up and it said, I will help you, but Jean, listen to me. If I help you, I get to be you while you recover. I get to experience life. That was part of the deal. It created a copy body of Jean Grey down to the memories, went into that body, possessed it, became Jean Grey, and experienced life. It experienced love, joy, hatred, sorrow, lust, and after a while, the host was overwhelmed by all these experiences. Because while the host is experiencing these things and that it's experienced before, for the Phoenix, it's a much more extreme desire to kind of fall into these emotions. And it's the first time. It feels like the first time every time. It's almost like Data, the first time he got emotions, to reference Star Trek, when they go to the Enterprise and he starts drinking the drink and he hates it. He can't stand it. It's the worst drink he's ever had in his entire life. But he wants to drink it because it's awful. He doesn't understand awful. Every time that she would eat food, every time that she would live, every time she would breathe, every time she would nap, every time she would wake, every time she would feel happy, every time she would laugh at a comedy, every time she would be sad, every time she would feel lust or passion or desire, or any kind of inhibition or feelings in general, it would be magnified to an unbelievable extent. And with the power of a god, when you get angry and you fall into that desire of anger, and it wants to experience it more, and it pushes the boundaries, it wants to feel it, it wants to be angry. This is the negative part of the Phoenix bonding with a person, is that over time they will lose control. And if I had to guess why, I'd tell you it loses control. Always the Phoenix loses control because they say absolute power corrupts absolutely. But I don't think it's being helped by the fact that the Phoenix wants to experience these things. It doesn't know what hatred feels like. And when it gets a small taste, even if it's something it doesn't necessarily like, it likes the idea that this is something that it cannot experience normally, and it wants that. So it pushes it even further. And then the host falls into this desire that's being fed from the Phoenix, along with their own problems and their own issues, because they say, I can fix anything. I can bring anybody back to life. I can destroy anything. I can beat anybody. I can fix anything. Reality is my plaything. But maybe I get a little too wrapped up in the joy of accomplishing my goal, such as Cyclops and them. When they got the Phoenix Force, they saw the power to make the world right, and they started making it right, and it made them feel good that they had finally reached this utopia that they talked about for their whole lives. And the Phoenix, I think, feeds into that, and it experiences this joy with them, and it says, I love this. I would like to get more and more and more and more and more and more and more of this right now. As much of this as I can get. So it starts getting that. But then it becomes overwhelmed, and sooner or later something tips the scale, because people are not perfect and they can't live imperfect. They say that a gilded cage is still a cage, and that's true. It doesn't matter how perfect your world is around you. There's something in humanity that strives us to continue forward, even if the circumstances are negative. Even if the circumstances are good, we're always going to push forward, and what we push towards might not necessarily be a positive aspect, and we will deal with the circumstances of that aspect. But what happens is that while the world of perfect was surrounding them, they were only taking care of themselves, because they fell into the ambition of pleasing themselves with the power that they had. They knew they were doing good for other people, but not necessarily all other people. And when it came down that everybody opposed the Phoenix Force of the Phoenix Five, and they got mad, and they grew impatient, and then they got irritated with each other for not all being on the same wavelength and everything. This is when the confrontations happened, and this is when some of them started going dark. And then it experiences this negative part of life, and even though it doesn't necessarily like that, it wants it. So it feeds into it even more, and that feeds the person that's housing it. And I think what's happening here, as Beast explains it, by the way, he explains it with the other Beast. He has a conversation with the other Beast, which is pretty cool, that they kind of talk it out amongst each other, is that he thinks the Phoenix is prepping Jean, creating a more balanced Jean, that he controlled the circumstances of the life up to that point. And for some reason, he or she, whatever the Phoenix is, the Phoenix wants to make sure that Jean is perfect this time before it bonds with her. So it's deleted aspects of the X-Men and things of that nature. However, Jean, somehow subconsciously, and all of her power, and Jean Grey is mega powerful. You have to understand that too when we talk about this. Jean Grey's consciousness is somehow pushing back. It does remember, and it's creating aberrations in the outside world that are calling for help and bringing the X-Men here to help her. And when the X-Men get here, they are confronted by the Phoenix. And the Phoenix, the X-Men are like, it wants to fight us. It wants to fight us, and it wants to kill us all right here, right now. Why? Why does it want that? Well, if you're out of the way, you've been one of the problems. And the Phoenix doesn't necessarily, as I said, the Phoenix doesn't understand the squabbles of the normal mortal existence. All it knows is that for whatever reason, every time it gets involved with her, which is the most promising host it's ever had throughout the cosmos, all the people, all the entities, all the life forms it has ever bonded its presence with, nothing has been as significant an experience as Jean Grey, and it wants to keep that. But these guys are in the way. Whatever happens every time I get involved with her, they seem to cause an issue, and then something happens, and then Jean Grey dies, or some calamity chases me out, and I can't stay, and I don't want that. I believe that almost like a strange motherly aspect, but almost in the way that a person would care for a gerbil, that the Phoenix loves Jean Grey. And it wants to make sure that Jean Grey is perfect for the experience, so that it can experience it, but Jean Grey can be protected from the harms that come from this kind of interaction. So it's created this false world, and it's prepping her for this experience. Well, they get to talking about what's going to happen here. And they know that if they have to fight the Phoenix, they're all dead. So they get to talking, and they say, one of us needs to go in there, into that restaurant, and talk with Jean Grey. She needs to know. And Scott is the one that says that it has to be me. And then Logan comes up, and this scene makes a lot of sense, and it's handled very well, and it's very powerful. And Logan says, no, it's not you. It shouldn't be you at all. You never loved this woman. I know that's complicated because of time travel and displacement and all the other X-Men kind of problems, but you never loved her. You never knew her. You know that Jean Grey. And I know that she's missing right now, but I promise you from experience, she will turn up. I'm the one that needs to go in here. I know her. I loved her. I knew her. I'm the one that needs to go in there. I'm the one that needs to talk to her. I'll wake her up. And if it comes down to it, unlike you, Scott, I can kill her. And that's really hard, guys. That is a hard thing to even admit to himself, let alone what's about to happen. He knows that if he can't get Jean to wake up, he's going to have to kill her. Because as it stands, every time the Phoenix bonds with somebody, it goes bad, and it's going to turn out the same this time too. It's not going to be a positive thing. It's going to go bad, and when it goes bad, it's going to be bad for everybody. And he knows that that's a true statement, and he says, I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to talk to her. And if I can't wake her up, I'm going to kill her. Now, you could also argue the idea that if he went in there and he killed her, would it really do any good? The Phoenix is right there. Couldn't the Phoenix just be like, okay, and bring her right back and then kill him? Because these guys are only operating in the idea that the Phoenix allows them to. That's it. If the Phoenix so chose it right now, it could wipe the Earth from existence. Why doesn't it do that? Because for some reason it's developed a care for Jean Grey. And that little bit of care for Jean Grey, that desire to make sure that Jean Grey is safe and taken care of and given opportunity, even if it's for a selfish reason, because it wants to bond with Jean Grey, there's something there that's kept us alive, and we kind of owe that to our luck, I guess. This book is crazy good, and it gave me an awful lot of talk about, because I'm at like 25 minutes here. But guys, I have already read book 5. And holy crap, do I got stuff to say on it. So, For right now, you are all caught up with Phoenix Resurrection. And when I come back, I will finish this event. And wow, do I got something to say. Later on.